Allah, myself Rubina Bande, teacher, Boys Higher Secondary School, Handwara. The video is regarding the National Education Policy 2020. I want to deliberate upon this concept that the new education policy of 2020, the National Education Policy 2020. Firstly, I want to tell you the history of this National Education Policy, how it reached to this culmination. Okay, in 1950, Constitution of India, Article 45. In Article 45, there was directive principles of state policy. In these directives, the state shall endeavor to provide within a period of 10 years from the commencement of this constitution, from 1950 to 1960, there was free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. This was in 1950, that in only in 10 years there should be free and compulsory education for all children of India. And then in 1968, this Kothari Commission was made. In this Kothari Commission, this was education of equitable quality, curriculum framework, and CERT recommended common school system. In this Kothari Commission, there was the education that was equitable. There was qualitative education, curriculum was set up, curriculum framework was set up, and CERT syllabus was prescribed for the for this elementary education. Okay, and then the recommended common school system was made. And then in 1974, education and responsibility of both center and state. This was then the responsibility of state as well as the center to give the education for all children, to all the children of nation, because we know that the development of any nation is dependent on education. That means education is the backbone of nation's development. Okay, and then in 1984, this was for the first time that the national policy of education was made, which was known as National Education Policy, NPE. In this NPE, in this national policy of education, universal elementary education recommended free and compulsory education. Free books were given free, uniforms were given free, and compulsory education, that nobody should be without education. The children in the age group of this 1 to 14, rather we can say 3 to 14, no children would be without education, to ensure before 21st century endorse this CSS, that is common school education. The common school education was compulsory for every child of the nation to get education, to be educated, to be literate, in short. Okay, and this policy, National Education Policy, in 1988, there was some features of this National Education Policy, like the National Education Policy 1906 is based on the recommendation of the Commission of 1964 to 66. This commission, Kothari Commission, it was based on the recommendation of that very policy. The commission recommended that the Government of India should issue a statement on the national policy on education, which should provide guidelines to the state governments and the local authorities in preparing and implementing educational plans. To prepare the educational plans and then to implement the educational plans. Okay, it was to set up the framework where the new educational plans were made and then implemented in the ground level. And in 1967, the Government of India constituted a committee of members of the Parliament on Education to prepare the draft on a state on the national policy of education. Okay, and then the commission brought together the leading members of almost all the political parties in the country and prepared a draft, which was considered by the Central Advisory Board of Education. A general consensus on the national policy on education emerged in the course of the board's deliberations. And after that, in 2014, when we had BJP government, and in BJP manifesto, the new education they gave a shape to new education policy after 34 years perhaps. The new policy were in consideration. A new committee was formed regarding the education policy, regarding the development in the educational system, in which this Srimati Irani, Smriti Irani was there, which was the HRD minister then in 2015, and there was this Sri Subramaniam was there, which was also which who committed a committee reported they submitted a report on 7th May 2016 regarding the education, a new education policy. Okay, and then what were the objectives of this committee? It was to improve the quality of education. The first and foremost thing was to improve the quality of education. They have to improve the quality of education, because education is the backbone of the development of any nation. So they wanted to improve the quality of education. And then the second thing was the objective of this committee was credibility of education, and then the addressing the gaps in implementation. These were the objectives of this committee. And then new committee was formed, made up of 9 members. They drafted the national education policy in 2019. That means the new education policy was drafted in 2019. Okay, and then and then you can see the 3 most important changes in the new national education policy in 2020, which was given in 2020, which was drafted in 2019. This HRD minister, now renamed as Ministry of Education, the HRD ministry, which was given a name HRD minister, it was renamed as the Ministry of Education. Again, this the GDP investment in education to increase from 1.6%, which was only 1.6% of the GDP was given to the education, was invested in education. Now it rose from 1.6 to 6%. Now the 6% of GDP will be invested on education system. Third thing, focusing on gross enrollment ratio, it will be increased to 50% by 2030. There will be a focus on the gross enrollment ratio, which will be increased. Surely it will be increased to 50% by 2035. It is Modi's government. In Modi's government, the new national education policy was given. The new education policy 2020. It was a truly remarkable day in the history of Indian education system. Under the visionary leadership of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, Union Cabinet today approved National Education Policy 2025, 21st century. This brings in much needed historic reforms in both school and higher education. No nation in the world can excel by giving up its culture and values. The aim of Prime Minister Narendra Modi National Education Policy 2000 is to create an education system. Okay, this was made only to increase the education system, which is deeply rooted in Indian ethos and can rebuild India as a global knowledge superpower by providing high quality education to all the children of the nation. Everybody in India will get high quality education. Okay, Modi government national education policy ensures that quality education will reach students of every section of the society. A special joint task force will be constituted to ensure the same, to increase the gross enrollment ratio, that is GER, gross enrollment ratio in higher education. Continuous and strategic steps will be taken. Okay, National Education Policy 2020 brings in various features like we will discuss it later: 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system in school education, introduction of new 4-year courses, single point common regulatory system, free fixation and common norms within board regulatory framework, along with multiple entry and exit points in higher education. National Education Policy 2020 will also have a provision of academic credit bank. Like in banks we have credit, we have this limit in this credit limits. In now in education we will be having academic credit bank, in increased investment in education system, internationalism of education, special education zone for disadvantaged regions, upgradation of KGBVs, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalay to 12th grade, and an increased focus on Lok Vidya and the use of technology as well. We can see here National Education Policy 2020. It was high education curriculum to have flexibility of the subjects, multiple entry exit to be allowed with appropriate certification. That means every student can he can exit a course, and if he wants to entry at any time, at any period, he can rejoin the course, he can enter in at any time when he wants. Okay, there is flexibility, there is free entry and free exit to every child. Okay, academic bank of credits to be established to facilitate transfer of credits when you will have for example, you will qualify 1 year academic course, and you will be given a certificate that will be deposited as a credit, okay, in the academic bank. Okay, then National Research Foundation to be established to foster a strong research culture, and then affiliation system to be phased out in 15 years with graded autonomy to colleges. Okay, National Education Policy educates increased use of technology with equity. National Education Technology Forum to be created. National Education 2020 emphasizes setting up of gender inclusion funds and special education zones for disadvantaged regions and groups. National Institute for Pali, Persian, and this Pankarit Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation to be set up. Okay, here you can see the transforming curriculum and pedagogical structure. This was the existing academic structure. Like we have the pre-school, and then 10 years from 6 to 16. This was and then we had 10 plus 2, that is 2 years, age 16 to 18. This was up to 10th, and then up to 12th, 10 plus 2 grade. This was the existing academic structure. Now the new academic structure is like this: first 3 years Anganwadi and preschool. Okay, so this is from the age of 3 to 6. Now a child of age 3 will enter the system of education, which is known as foundational stage, which is foundational stage from age 3 to age 8. This is the foundational stage. Here multi-level play activity based learning is given to a child. From this a child of age 3 will enter the education system, and he will get education by playway methods. Okay, and after crossing the foundational level, he will enter the preparatory stage. Preparatory stage is for 3 years, where the learning is based on play, discovery, and activity based and interactive classroom learning. It is from class 3 to 5. This is the preparatory stage from age 8 to 11. This is the preparatory stage. And then this black color, it is from class 6 to 8th, from age 11 to 14. These 3 years, this is known as the middle stage. In this middle stage, you would be having experimental learning in the science, mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities. This is the middle stage. And after crossing the middle stage, a child will enter in secondary phase. Secondary stage, rather we can say, is secondary stage is for 4 years. This is from class 9 to 12th, from age 14 to 18. Here the multidisciplinary study, greater critical thinking will be allowed. There is flexibility and student's choice of subject. A student from this class 9th has to choose the subjects as per his will, as per his choice. This is a new pedagogical and curricular structure of school education, that is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. That means 3 years in Anganwadi preschool and then 12 years in school, that is the preparatory, middle, and secondary stages. This is the comprehension. Now I have made this the whole education policy like this. The National Education Policy was approved by the Union Cabinet of India on 29th of July 2020, which outlines the vision of India's new education system. The new policy replaces the previous national policy of education in 1986, that was given in 1986. The policy is comprehensive framework for elementary education to higher education as well as the vocational training in both rural and urban India. The policy aims to transform India's educational system by 2030. That means the new education policy aims only to develop the educational system and to make the students able to live a practical life after passing the all stages. After completing the education, he will be completely adjustable in any field of life. He will be practical. He will be having a practical knowledge, and every child will be set up in that very framework, which is his choice, which is his inner need, in a demand. Okay, the National Education Policy 2020 envisions an India's centric education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainable into a equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. The National Education Policy 2020 enacts numerous changes in India's educational policy. It aims to increase state expenditure on education from around 4% to 6%, or it was 0.6% to 6% of the GDP as soon as possible. That means by increasing the funds, by developing the infrastructure and other phases of education, this education system will be more compatible and will be more influential for the students. Okay, the changes and objectives, or the first one is language. The policy is the importance of mother tongue and regional language medium of instruction until class 5th, and preferably beyond should be in these languages. Sanskrit and foreign languages will also be given emphasis. The policy also states that no language will be imposed on the students. Okay, this will be the language will be the preference of the student as well as the teachers. Shortly after the release of the policy, the government clarified that the language policy in national education policy is a broad guidelines, and that it was up to the states, institutions and schools to decide the implementations. A more detailed language strategy would be released in the national curriculum framework in 2021. And then school, the second one is educating the school education. The school education, which we discussed earlier, the 10+2 structure will be replaced with 5+3+3+4 model. This will be implemented as follows. Fundamental stage, which we discussed earlier. This foundational stage, this is the further subdivided into two parts: 3 years of preschool or Anganwadi, followed by classes 1 and 2 in primary school. This will cover children of age 3 to 8 years. The focus of the students will be in activity based learning, and then preparatory stage, middle stage, secondary stage. Okay, this we have discussed already. Instead of exams being held every academic year, the school students will also answer 3 exams in class 3, 5 and 8. Board exams will be continued to be held for classes 10th and 12th, but will be redesigned. The whole system of exams will be redesigned. Standards for this will be established by an assessment body, that is Parak. Okay, the Parak is this assessment body. To make them easier, these exams would be conducted twice a year, which was previously it was once a year. Now it is twice a year, with standards being offered up to 2 attempts. The exam itself would have 2 parts, namely the objective and descriptive. Both objective type and descriptive type questions will be asked to the students. The policy aims at reducing the curriculum load of students and allowing them to be more interdisciplinary and multilingual. One example given was, if a student wants to pursue fashion studies with physics, or if one wants to learn bakery with chemistry, they will be allowed to do so. Report cards would be holistic, offering information about the student's skill. Okay, not only the student, these teachers will evaluate the student, but there is a possibility that the student itself will introspect and will give the remarks to his own skill, and also the classmates or all the schoolmates will also give the reports of the students as teachers were given only. Okay, then coding, this coding will be introduced from class 6, and experimental learning will be adopted. Okay, this midday meal scheme, which was given only in midday meal scheme there was only given lunch, now will be extended to include breakfast. More focus will be given to students health. The students health is priority now, particularly mental health, through this deployment of the counselors and social workers, because we know when a student is mentally healthy, he can get education, he will be aware about the things then. Okay, then higher education, there is also a change, not only in the school system but also in higher education. It emphasizes a 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree in an undergraduate program with this multi-exist options. These will include professional and vocational areas and will be implemented as follows. For example, a certificate a certificate is given after completing 1 year of study. Okay, a diploma is given after completing 2 years of the study, and then the bachelor's degree is given after completing a 3-year program. A 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree, this is a preferred option. Okay, in this very time any student can exit or he can re-enter the course when he wants. At any period of time he can exit. There is a flexibility. He can enter at any time and he can exit as well. These MPhil courses are to be discontinued line degree education with how it is in Western models. A Higher Education Council of India, that is HECI, will be set up to regulate higher education. The council's goal will be to increase gross enrollment ratio. This is the main focus. The gross enrollment ratio should be increased. This also, this HECI will have four verticals. Okay, National Higher Education Regulatory Council, that is NHERC, to regulate higher education, including teacher education while extending medical and legal education. Okay, this National Accreditation Council, NAC, okay, matter this accreditory body is there. Higher Education Grants Council, that is HEGC, for funding and financing of universities and colleges. This will replace the existing National Council for Teacher Education, All India Council for Technical Education, and the University Grants Commission. Now it is Higher Education Grants Council for funding the courses, funding the universities, universities and all colleges as well. General Education Council, that is GEC, to frame graduate attributes, namely the learning outcomes expected. It will also be responsible in framing a national higher education qualification framework, that is NHEQF. The National Council for Teacher Education will come under the General Education Council, GEC, as a professional standard setting body, that is PSSB. Other PSSBs will include professional councils such as Veterinary Councils of India, Council of Architecture, Indian Council of Agriculture, Research and Nation Council for Vocational Education and Training. Also, the national testing agency will now will be given to additional responsibility of conducting entrance examination for admission to universities across the country, in addition to the these mains and NEET. Okay, NEET. The policy proposes the higher education institutions like the IITs make changes with regard to the diversity of learning. The policy proposes to internationalize education in India. Foreign universities can now set up campuses in India. This is the main thing, that the foreign universities can now set up in their campuses in India. Okay, the fee of both private and public universities will be fixed. Also, now the teacher education. The National Education Policy 2020 puts forward many policy changes when it comes to teachers and teacher education. What to do? To become a teacher, a 4-year bachelor's of education, that is B.Ed. 4 years of B.Ed will be minimum requirement needed by 2030. Now there will be 4 years of B.Ed. Okay, the teacher recruitment process will also be strengthened. And made transparent. The recruitment of the teachers, this will be a transparent process. Now the National Council for Teacher Education will frame a national curriculum framework for teacher education by 2021 and national professional standards for teachers by 2022. It is much obvious that when a teacher is qualified, when a teacher is really a teacher, when he is equipped with knowledge and other things, knowledge and skill, then it is possible a nation can be an educated one, a child can be well educated. The policy aims to ensure that all students at all levels of school education are taught by passionate, motivated, highly qualified, professionally trained and well equipped teachers. This was all regarding the national education policy. Thank you very much.